I'm gonna tell you another win. Actually, I'll just start this off. This is gonna be. I'm starting Danny's podcast off the way I want to start it off, bro. I get a DM from the head of marketing at Riverside today, and they want to figure out how we can work together where I make content for them.
All you do is win, Tom Boyd.
No. Let me land it first. And then we'll decide if it's a win. But, like, I just realized, I was like, wait, I'm using Riverside right now. It was, like, so meta to think about. But, yeah, all right, let's get into it.
Tom, you are an absolute legend. And I'm so happy you're here. And I had such a good time when you interviewed me. And I said to myself, man, this guy is just a positive, optimistic, just a light in the world. And I'm grateful that you agreed to take the time to come on in this podcast. And what a lot of people might not know about you is that you were Justin Bieber's first babysitter.
I don't know if I was his first, but I definitely babysat
him. So I'd love to start there. What was that all about?
Yeah. So first, like, that's a fun moment in sort of like my creator journey, where I was working with an artist named Asher Roth. He's one of my best friends, and him and I moved to Atlanta together to pursue his music journey. And our manager was Scooter Braun. So I was working directly with Scooter on a consistent basis. I mean, he's the one that found the house, moved us to the neighborhood, got us into the scene, got us all the resources, got the record deal. And I was there. I was sort of like Asher's day-to-day creative partner in all of it. So in the process, I got this hard knock education on the entertainment industry. I went to school for health and phys ed, nowhere near close to the background that I was venturing in. So I was kind of a wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, just excited kid just to be around the action. And Scooter moved Justin Bieber to the same neighborhood as us. So we were, young kids, like, fresh out of college, like still just trying to party and have a good time. And Scooter moved this 13-year-old kid to our neighborhood, and his mom was young at the time, 33, 34, and she was a single mom down there. And we were the only friends that they knew, and we were, 2 to 3 football fields away from his house. So this would, honest to goodness, like, I would come home from a day of like serving tables at the Hudson Grill in Atlanta, and I'd be spent. I'd be like, I just want to sit down. I want to play some video games. I want to not think about anything. And then knock. I'd hear a knock at the door, and I'd go and I'd look through the screen, and it'd be like Justin Bieber with his long hair flip, and his mom would be up at the corner, in her car waving, "Hey, can you watch him for the afternoon?" And we'd be like, "Oh," like, the last thing we want to do is watch a 13-year-old kid when we're like, young bachelors in Atlanta, like working jobs, trying to make it in music. We don't want to watch a kid, but. What a kid to watch. What like a talent. Like, we learned so much from Justin at the same time. Like, he would record songs with us. We'd, we would kind of see this kid's development, and he would just be, he definitely had an edge to him where it was like, this isn't a normal 13-year-old kid. There was a time when we went to Ludacris's restaurant, the day that Justin Bieber got signed. Asher was meeting Ludacris for the first time. Scooter asked me, he assigned me, he said, "Hey, watch Justin. Don't let him out of your sight. I have to handle business with Asher and Scooter, or Asher and Luda." And of course, like, the night gets going. I'm getting content. That was also my job. So I lost Justin. I didn't know where he went. Scooter gets mad at me, scolds me. So I have to go find Justin. I run outside, and I hear this, I hear this voice singing "You Got It Bad" by Usher. And it's Justin Bieber singing, serenading to fine women outside. They're swaying back and forth. I have the footage of this. He sings it. They start clapping for him, and I remember Scooter walked out at the same time, and I looked at Scooter and I was like, "You're onto something with this kid." Like I'm not built like that, and I'm 10 years older than this guy. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, that's a great way to start off,
dude. What was that like? Did you know in that moment that he was a star, or that he was going to be obviously that story? But
so I think the reason I knew is because Scooter Braun had an ability to. Scooter Braun is an amazing storyteller. So I didn't know much about the music industry at the time, but like Scooter Braun, some people might call him a manager, some might call him a businessman, some might call him, he's probably a better businessman and marketer than an actual manager. But the best thing what he's the best at is storytelling. And he sold the story of like I saw him do it with Asher, then I saw him do it with Justin, and just you would like. He sold the story to me, and everyone around that like this kid was going to be the biggest artist in the world. So I did believe Scooter. I don't know why. I can't really tell you. He just has one of those like gifts that like you can't really explain or like teach. But through Scooter, I believed that kid was going to be one of the biggest stars in the world. And it was cool to see. I remember the first time Scooter came over. Comes over with a flip cam, and he's like, boy, I forget what we were doing, but he's like, stop what you're doing, I need you to help me edit this video. And I go and I plugs in the USB into the computer because it was a flip cam, and it was Justin Bieber meeting Justin Timberlake for the first time, and he's standing over my shoulder like telling me where to put the logos and like going through the whole like how to edit this content, and like from Scooter through little lessons like that, like I would learn about branding. Oh, put the logo here, add the signature here at the end, like all these little things that I think he was just doing. I'm kind of going off on a tangent right now, but like just the experience of like learning these little micro things along the way of working with Scooter made such an impact on the way I created content moving forward.
Yeah, and you kind of just skipped over the part in the story where you and Asher get signed to Scooter and how that happens, because that was a pivotal moment, I believe, from researching the story. Yeah.
It was an awesome moment, man. And the reason I don't talk about these moments a lot on my own personal social, just because there's a bit of me that it's like, am I living too much in the past with some of this stuff? And do I want, for 5-6 years, like my brand was like, oh, I'm Asher Roth's boy. I'm Asher Roth's boy. And like for the first time I've created a brand where I'm just like, no, like, it's my stuff. But that's the reason I do like talking about it in long form and on the podcast, is because what gives me the inspiration to talk about the ideas that I'm talking about now on my personal account, like it gives you context for why I care about it. And the reason I care about it is because, I was in school for health and phys ed, and I wasn't inspired. I was just kind of, drifting through life, like, doing the party thing, video games, just any distraction. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. And just was kind of floating because I wasn't inspired. Then I met this kid named Asher Roth, who was a good friend of mine, still a good friend of mine to this day. And I met him at a party, and he was rapping. He was just spitting bars. And I was like, that's really cool. And then I started to hear some of his we met in a weird way, but as I got to know him, I really admired the fact that he was putting his ideas out there. And I was like, I want to be part of this in some way, shape, or form. So I was just helping him. Because, well, one, a lot of the people around it, why? You're a good podcaster, bro. You're a good podcaster. So I think the main reason was I just thought people should hear it. 2007, 2008, no one really in small college town PA is like doing anything creative. And that was exciting to me. So it was a fun way to live vicariously through his creative ideas if I could help promote them. And I looked around, and there was no one really around him pushing him. Like no one like. So I started selling the mixtape, started driving into the studio, started thinking of merch ideas, started filming him and putting him on YouTube, and helping him build the website, and like all these little things that like just out of my curiosity. And I started to find this excitement there. And school was just like, I was just at school, but this became my actual passion. Like I was getting his project seen by the world, and in the process, we made a Facebook group called His website was called yoasher.com, and I made a Facebook group called I've been to www.yoasher.com, and it was a place where I sold Asher's mixtapes. And we had all these mixtapes, and I would just sling them $5, and like we just take the music and like bet it. We take the money and bet it on like football games or buy beer, right? Like just like stupid college stuff. Like I had no idea what to do with the money when we made it. And then from that group, so Scooter Braun comes across. Do you want me to? How deep into the story do you want me to go?
As deep as you want to go.
So the cool part of the story is, right, we were that actual Sunday, Asher and I were coming home from Penn State, and we were coming home from Penn State to Westchester, PA, and it was a 6 to 7 hour drive because of traffic. It's supposed to be like a 2.5, 3 hour drive. So we were just bummed. He broke up with his girlfriend the night before. And on the ride home, he's saying, yo, I'm going to quit music and just focus on education. And in my head, I'm like, yo, where's the fun in that, bro? Like you're not quitting music. But I didn't say that out loud. So we get back to our houses finally. I'm playing Madden. I'm sitting in my house, 614 Matlack Street, Westchester, PA. And I'm sitting there, and I get this call from Greenwich, Connecticut. Which like was weird to me. And then the voice said, I picked up and the voice said, give me the details on Asher Roth. I hung that up so quickly. I thought it was, for some reason, I don't know why I went here. I thought it was the local cops because Asher's house was getting all of these noise violations at the time. The guy calls me back. I don't know why I thought it was the local cops because it said Greenwich, Connecticut. Like I thought, you know how people can like trick the numbers. Like I thought like they were duping me, right? So, guy calls back and it's like, and the guy goes, "This is the most important phone call of your boy's career," and I was like, "Well, that's ballsy." like who the hell has the gonads to say that? So I was like, well, "What's up, man? What's up?" And then he was like, he like kind of gives me his whole spiel. He's fast talking. It's Scooter Braun. He sends me to this website, this creativeloafing.com website. It's like the local magazine in Buckhead, Atlanta. And it's Scooter Braun. It's about Scooter Braun's like party promotion company. And he's like shaking hands with Kanye West. He's like saying what's up to Snoop. He's like talking to Kevin Federline. And I'm like, yo, this guy is balling. Like, we got to meet this guy. So like, I'm getting hyped, right? Like, I've never met a celebrity in my life, right? So, I run across the street. I knock on Asher's front door. I knock on his back door. No one. It's Sunday night, probably like 11 o'clock now, and no one's there. And then Asher's lived in the basement, believe it or not. So I go around to the side basement, like secret door, and I'm banging on that. And like he like opens up. He's like, "Bro, you good?" Like I was like, "Yo, we gotta call this guy." And he was like, "Yo, we'll call him tomorrow." And I was like, "No. He's shaking hands with Kanye West in this photo. We gotta call him now." And like, dude, I'm telling you, it was probably like, it was one of those photos where like he was just like next to him, like it just met, like he didn't actually know him. So, long story short, even though I already made the story long, we end up. Asher gets on the phone with Scooter, and it was Asher never, like, I never really saw him get nervous, but I could tell he was nervous on this call. Like, I could tell his mind was, like, connecting the dots and kind of buzzing. And then, nothing really happened right away, but I kept messaging Scooter on Facebook, like, sending him little songs we were making, just, like, little like, excerpts of tracks. And then eventually, Asher was leaving the movie Borat and texted Scooter and was like, "Yo, trust your gut, let's make moves." And then Scooter was like, "All right, if you can get down to Atlanta this weekend," I think it was like the VH1 Awards or something like that, like the BET Awards or something. He was like, I can get you a bunch of meetings with people." And Asher went down there. And then it took probably another 6 months after that. Everyone thinks it happens overnight. Next time I drove Asher to Atlanta, like in my old Honda Accord, we like had a couple of studio sessions. I drove back. Now I'm starting to like get excited about these relationships because I was like he was taking us to cool studios. Like we were meeting like Jazzy Faye and like these big producers. So yeah, it was just like it was like a fish out of water experience. Like we're small town, like a small town American experience, and then we're like getting thrown into this cool entertainment experience in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were sold. We were like, "Yo, we got to make something happen down here.
Why Atlanta?
Well, at the time, it was sort of the mecca of hip hop. At the time, it was kind of running the music industry from the hip hop standpoint.
Gotcha.
And Scooter lived there. And Scooter, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he lived in Greenwich. That makes sense. But
yeah. He lived in. He went to Emory, and dropped for a year or so. Dropped out, and then lived in Buckhead. So I moved down, got a job at Lenox Mall, at the gym, and got a serving job. Once Asher's label money ran out, he got a job serving pizzas, yeah, dude, it was a whole experience. And then he moved Justin down, and it was crazy, man. It was wild.
And then how long after do you and Asher write "I Love College"? Because that song, to give people context, is the song that I think of when I think of high school, when I think of college, when I think of my formative years. That song is the song I think of. And then I'm listening to this podcast, and you say you basically helped write that song. Yeah. I don't know how much involvement you did. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this guy influenced my life and my peers' life in such a way where that song still rings in our head. And I'm sure it rings in your head nonstop, and it follows you everywhere you go. But take me through that. We could go through the whole journey if you want.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of different ways I could take this conversation. All right, because that conversation, that song was the start and the end of a lot of things. It was. Obviously a blessing, right? So there's a lot of, I don't want to say the start and the end of things. I'm gonna run that back. So that song was, it was a journal entry between two friends, and for me, the way that song came about, and just to be fully candid about this, the business of that song was never fully never fully resolved.
Wow.
And to be honest, I haven't been entirely sometimes it's I have a chip on my shoulder about it, because I was like I said, bushy-tailed, wide-eyed kid that was just doing anything possible to help my friend succeed. I would, he jumped in the crowd, I'm jumping in the crowd after him, pulling him out. He needs to go to Atlanta, I'm driving down there, right? Like he needs bars for a song, I got bars. You know what I'm saying? I'm the utility guy, right? And I don't think anyone Asher would tell you I am. Scooter would tell you I am. Everyone in the circle would tell you, Tom's just gets it done, right? He just figures out a way to get it done. I've never had a musical bone in my body. I can't sing. I don't know chords. I can't harmonize. I don't know melodies, right? But you can tell from my shorts that I have a way with communicating words and piecing words together to articulate an idea, and clever one-liners. That's what I've been able to have. So in college, what we would do as friends, Asher would clearly be the guy with the talent, but we would make little verses to 16s, and we would just have fun. It was like a fun hobby. Hey, let's make our friends laugh with 12 crazy lines. And it was totally out of fun, but Asher was obviously the one with talent. So we did this, and we did this, and we did this. And those songs became mixtape songs for Asher. A lot of those songs, 90% of them, thank goodness, no one will ever hear. But we did this, and that is the basis of our friendship. The creative process was the basis of my and Asher's friendship. So what gets me upset about that experience is that's what that experience was. And we didn't know that anyone was ever going to hear that song. It was just another it was another collab. Like me and him sitting there, we were sitting there on a Friday night. We were supposed to go to Mardi Gras that weekend, and our ride bailed on us. And we said out loud, man, in college, we didn't have to drive 6 hours. We were supposed to drive to New Orleans from Atlanta. We didn't have to drive 6 hours just to have a good time. You know, we were in this residential neighborhood now, living with all these people with kids, and we were like, we don't know anyone here. This isn't fun. So we started reminiscing on college. And we put college in the middle of a piece of paper, and we started stringing out little things like, oh, $1 a slice. Things like this is the perspective. I was like, what would we say if we were sitting on the front porch of our stoop at our college house, recapping the night before? That's what this song is. So that party last night was awfully crazy. I wish we taped it. Who tapes everything? Boyder Cam. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the one with the camera. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know why, so we just had this fun ping pong back and forth, and it kind of developed. And then we were like, oh, we got a song here. Like, Asher had the melody, Asher had the flow, but like for some reason that song of all this, one-liners were just coming out. Just again, the same mindset of like, yo, 90% of our, like, no one's ever going to hear this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just me and my friend. Asher didn't blow up yet. His mixtape wasn't out yet. No one knew who he was. And we were just reminiscing. But, fortunately, Asher can write a mean hook. And he can write the melody to a hook. So he had the whole flow to that. And then we kind of just like plugged in the bars to make it relevant to a college kid. And then we invited over the engineer. His name was James Stassen, but it was Scrappy. His nickname was Scrappy. He used to work for T-Pain. He kind of he helped T-Pain come up with auto-tune. Look that up. So this guy comes over, and I can see him I can see his eyes lighten up. I could feel he was like, oh crap, because he's been around the making of smash hits, and I could see him like, yo, you guys are on to something. And then we finished the second part of the song, and then we did the hook. Like, you can hear my voice in the bridge at the end of the song. So it was like the reason I'm like so passionate about what I'm doing right now is because I've seen stuff go from idea to millions of people hearing it. Idea recorded in a rat-infested basement. In a basement where we couldn't afford acoustic panels, so we had Scooby-Doo blankets hanging up on the wall, dampening the sound. Like, that's how we recorded that song. So people are going to come to us and tell us like, oh, I don't have the resources. Either all we had was a mic and like a computer and some Scooby-Doo blankets. And then we bring the song over to Scooter's house. It was the helmet catch. It was the night of the helmet catch, the Super Bowl. Remember when the Giants beat? Yeah, when the Giants beat on the Patriots, we went over there, and I saw I'm telling you. I saw Scooter was laying down watching the game. Then at halftime, we played the song for him. I saw my man get up, and he was like, "Oh!" And I saw dollar signs in his eyes. And then all of a sudden, this thing that me and my friend just sat there and ping pong back and forth. And at the time, I did not know what intellectual property was. I did not know what song credits were. I thought it just meant I didn't know that you didn't get money. I thought the only person that got money was the person that said the words. I didn't know that dude, this isn't Googleable. You can't just Google this at any single time. Or back then. All right, so I'm going on a rant, but back then you couldn't just look this up and find information. There wasn't resources. There wasn't people on YouTube telling you all about intellectual property, and so that was a wild experience for me because I ended up not getting any credits for it. Zero credits. And I've never actually said that on a podcast, here's what I'm saying. So I've squashed this with Asher and Scooter. There's but there's a lot of confusion for a lot of years with those friendships. And the way that I see it right now, this is how I reframed it in my mind. I I don't even know if I should say this, but like the way I see it is like, so I talked to some friends, like some counsel, and they said that I should have been seen around $400,000 to $700,000 from my contribution on that song. And the way I see it is, this is how I reframed it, a more powerful way, because I don't want to be the victim. Because I see so much positive in all of those experiences, like that. I don't even know if I got the money. If I would have, I probably would have thrown it away anyway. Right? Like, so what I got was this perspective, this chip on my shoulder about an individual solo creator that knows nothing about the world they're getting into. So when I talk at a camera with the passion that I do on bonus footage, that's where it's coming from. It comes from looking at an album and I remember in a billionaire's apartment in New York City the night the album released, looking at the album and not seeing my name on it when I was told the splits were coming, and crying in the freaking other bedroom, by myself, because my name was, all I wanted was my name on it. My passion comes from that. So just finding, and at the time, and this is also how I see things, everything that happens to you, you agree to, whether you say yes to it or no to it. I mean, majority of the thing, in the creative business world, right? So I should have been more assertive. I should have communicated. I did, and I was like, oh, they're going to do the right thing. But the right thing didn't happen. So that's why when I say speak up, it's all in your communication. The money doesn't go to the people with the best ideas. The money goes to the people who are able to communicate the best. And I didn't communicate it clear enough that hey, and honest, I don't know, dude. I don't know, dude. I'm getting hyped right now. I apologize. Actually, there's a lot of things even in hindsight, I remember. I mean, there's people, even the guy that was, dude, how deep should I go into this? I'm going on a rant.
Go deep. I'm loving it. I'm sure everyone listening or watching is loving this as well.
So what I'm saying is the reason honestly, it's I had a hard knock education of the entertainment industry, and I choose to see everything because when Asher and I talked about it too, it's he was fresh out of college too. He didn't know what he was doing. He had money. He had 10 people in his corner pulling him different directions, saying this is what it is. This is what it is. And he was getting pressure from all these angles to live up to his brand name and do things his certain way. And then there was just a lot of things in the mix that I'm chalking it up to negligence and lack of communication from my side, and I'm not mad at anyone, but the way I see it is if it's a fun reframe, I donate that $400,000 to Scooter Braun. He can have it. He needs it more than I do.
How do you deal with a friendship where it's one thing to realize it in this moment 10 years later that you didn't get the credit you deserve, but it seems like you realized it in that moment of, oh my God, I actually deserve this credit and I don't get it, and this is forcing me to cry. How do you then deal with the friendships that I'm sure you had with Scooter and Asher? What are the implications on those?
Yeah. So I wasn't you can see I'm very grateful for the way everything happened, because I wasn't a confident person. And sometimes you got to get chin checked to be able to open up your eyes and say, okay, how do I have life happen for me? Right? So these things, I was thinking, oh, they're happening to me. But wait, I started to realize I'm letting these things happen. So I don't want to blame, no one is to blame, and I kind of felt that way. I had empathy for their situations. I was guys, I just want people to win. But at the same time, at some point you have to have a backbone, because if you don't stand up for yourself, you will get walked over on in all aspects of life. People will sense it and they will just take. I think the nice guy a good guy can also have a backbone and speak up for themselves. And like I thought, just the nice guys, like good, I just trusted a little bit too much. But this allowed me to open up my eyes. Now I'm very assertive. Now I'm confident talking about money. Now like the first, So yeah, to go back into the conversation, the way it showed up is I started doing things that it forced me to start my own things. It forced me to start my own things, which is also a blessing out of the situation. So I started my own merch company.
Honey John.
At the time, I started a YouTube channel under the name Boydercan. And these are all things that were probably as a result where if the business was good on at the beginning, and again, for me, like not speaking up about it was a huge part of it. But if the business was good, we probably all would have went into business together. But then I started to create my own little silo over here. I started creating my YouTube channel, and then I started creating my clothing line, and it started getting attention. And then Asher being the main guy, not going to school. Like, there's no school for what do you do what do you do once you have a smash hit? There's no school for how to run your business, how to run a creative team. You just get thrown into it, and then you have to operate. So, yeah, stuff changed overnight. So, like, that's why I do have empathy for, like, what he was going through at the time. So, I think I had I still wanted him to win regardless. And I just, like, had faith that, like, maybe in 2 or 3 years, like maybe the checks are going to come then, like maybe like it'll all sort itself out. And I, honest to goodness, it did through the experiences that I got. So, being in the studio for 2 weeks with Pharrell Williams, like many people would pay $400,000 for that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I learned from him. I sat at a dinner table in between Diddy and Busta Rhymes. Like, I got if you look at my emails, I got 12,000 emails back and forth with Scooter Braun and his team over 3 years experience. Like, that education people would pay $400,000 for, right? Like, so, at the time, so me and Asher caught up a couple years ago. And it was a really amazing moment because, like, I honestly, like, there were 2 or 3 years there where, like, we just had to go and do our own thing and kind of, like, reset and then and prove to ourselves, like, it was almost like, oh, can I do it? He's probably saying, can I do it without Boyd? I'm probably saying, can I do it without Asher? And we both sort of did that, and then, like, we were able to come back and be like, yo, like, we can just be homies. We don't have to work together. Like, I got your back no matter what. And, like, that's what it's been ever since. And, dude, but I'm telling you, it was a tough situation. Like, a lot of that's why I talk a lot about building your creative team and being transparent from the jump, because the most difficult part of that situation for me is, like, I love those guys so much on that team. Like, everyone that we travel with, like, some of the greatest, funniest, like, cackling experiences ever, and none of us keep up with each other. We called ourselves the Viking ship. That's the biggest defeat from the whole thing, not the money, the fact that none of us connect anymore. And a lot of it had to do with, like, lack of communication around the business. Just lack of communication. Not like anyone was being cheap or, like, dissing anyone, but just, like, lack of, like, clear vision, where we want to go, how we're getting cuts, and how can we make this a win for everyone. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. Yeah, I don't even know if you can use this interview, man. I'm just. I've never went into the topics this way with other podcasts, just because, like, I don't know. I don't know if
it's all good. If we don't want to air it and you don't want me to, we won't air it. It's completely up to you. But going on the topic of communication with friends, and a lot of people deal with that situation where you have a really tight group. I think it happens in college a lot. And then you lose touch, and you're like, how did we lose touch? We were so close at this point in our life. And it sounds like with the Viking ship, it was exactly like that. So what could be done to maintain closer communication and friendship with those who you were really close with at one point in your life?
I made a video about this recently, the Rob Dyrdek video about the book that he read, Start at the End. And I think that that's such a critical part, and the way that I would apply it to the situation. He talks about how, he was just good. Rob Dyrdek was just good at like getting exposure, building the businesses, but he didn't really have a vision of what he wanted them to be. So like once he got the exposure, like they kind of just floated, and like they weren't really like things that people could invest in, and he kind of just like moved on to the next one. No like real direction. He was just like good at building it, didn't know where to like he wanted to actually set sail and take it. And I think that the Viking ship needed a clear direction of like where we wanted to take this thing. But no one knew. Everyone sort of had their own little agenda, their own little egos involved. But I think that if we were to say like, all right, here's our year goal, here's our 6-month goal, like this is it, this is what we're aligned on, these are the roles, this is what we need out of everyone, this is how we show up. Boyd, if you're going to make your own little side business, I want 10%, and then that's cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like open about, like very transparent. Like, hey, I want to start this. Does this complement our year vision? Like, yeah, it does in this way. And this is how we'll split it up. But again, at the time, like you're coming out of college, and like Asher was in education. I was in education. Like we're just learning this stuff real time. So yeah, I think finding a way to be very clear on the mission, where you're going, because then you can start to decide what strengths each other has that they can complement each other to help you get there. And at the time, we were just like entirely winging it. Like I don't think we ever had that conversation.
In all fairness, though, it's not like 20, 23, 25-year-old guys think that way of like, where are we directing our efforts? And if there is a group like that, it's very rare. So it's nothing to be ashamed of.
I know, and I'm not ashamed. Like the only thing is just, I think the whole thing around the song, I don't talk about it on my socials. I don't talk about it.
Why not?
One, I think that was a whole different like. All right, one, if I'm completely honest with you, I'm not like. All right, here's actually, I don't like the song. like I don't like what it stands for. Like I'm someone that like I go to Whole Foods, I eat avocados, I have a glass of wine like once a week, maybe. That song to me was a cry for help for our educational system to change. Like, because why do people get after it? And, like, why do we get after it? Because we weren't inspired. We didn't have any direction. We didn't know what we wanted to do with ourselves. So, like, literally, it was like a cry for help for, like, yo, guys, like this is nonsense. So, like, if anything, and Asher has talked more recently about, like, flipping that notion on its head and doing a podcast series called, something around I Love College, where he like goes around and like actually tries to help reform like college education and like the way tuition is and like how people get into school and like the actual curriculum and make it useful, which would be really dope. But at the same time, it was a journal entry. It was like friends, and like usually journal entries don't become catchy songs that people sing. So I don't know, man. So yeah, it's a love-hate, man, because at the same time, that's what gave the opportunity to like see this industry in a light that I was able to learn so much, and now I'm able to share in all of the content that I create. What was the question?
I often say that I don't know what the question was, and that's part of the fun of doing this. But
yeah.
I often say that winning is harder than losing, in that if you're losing, no one's paying attention. It's obvious what to do.
Yeah.
You just keep going and keep producing and keep working. Then when you start winning and all of the lights are at you and everyone is paying attention to you, everyone wants a piece of you, you're going to these crazy dinners, you're recording with Pharrell, like crazy stuff's happening. It's actually harder. Was that also true from your perspective?
Yeah, it was harder entirely on everything, on like all of our our friendship. I mean, that was the key thing to me. That was the key thing for me. Just like I like honestly, this is like it was harder. It was harder once it blew up. So yes, like, and I talk about this, that song coming out first put a lot of pressure on Asher to live up to that. And that's very hard for a new artist, extremely hard. And at the same time, this is what I noticed too. Everyone around him sees him as an opportunity now. Like, you're walking around, when girls look at you, when businessmen, when managers, when producers, you are a walking come up to people. And it's human nature just to be around people that you feel like can change your life with like one. Oh, we're partners now. Boom, I have a platform with this person. Like, I've seen it, like, even with Justin. Like, it is hard for him to tell a joke and have someone not laugh. And that is not good. You need people to not laugh, because that feedback loop of getting fake laughs makes you go nuts. Like, you don't know what is real. And that's like, I saw it to a smaller degree with Asher, but I know it because, like, he's, like, Justin is, one of the biggest, if not the biggest star in the world, right? Like, I saw people like become amphibians around these stars, and it's very hard for them, and then it's very hard for the people around them to like really know what's real.
This is what's so crazy about and so interesting about what you're doing right now is you're posting on TikTok, you're posting these short form clips, and let's say one of them blows up. Let's say that it goes crazy in the algorithm and it goes viral.
And it will.
And it will, right? That's the crazy part. You are then entering into that same potential vortex of people laughing because it's you and not because they think it's funny. And you are now opening up yourself to the possibility of warping your own reality.
Yes, the difference. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So, if you look at artists like that pop off right away, there's like an immediate warping, right, of the other reality. But if you gradually do it and build your creative process, you put your you measure yourself based on the work and not the response. Then you can be grounded in reality once it blows up. So we didn't have a creative process. We were just like literally, like, we knocked one out of the park. My dad uses this analogy a lot in baseball. He says the worst thing that can happen to a baseball player is hit a home run in their first game, because then you're swinging for the fence the rest of the season, and then all your mechanics are off. And that's what happens. All your mechanics off. You think that you're just this gift to the world and like you just got this magic touch, but really reality is going to hit you and you're going to strike out. And when it does and people stop clapping, then you're going to base your self-confidence on those external metrics. But if you base your self-confidence on, did I show up? Did I commit to the practice? Was I consistent? Did I make 100? That's the difference now. So I'm built for it now. I'm also way more confident in the content. I'm confident in who I am as a person. I'm confident in the real-time experience of the results of people around me that I've worked with, that like ideas that I've created. Like I'm more grounded in the actual process than what people are gonna how people respond, which I think is the way to go. I think you root yourself in the creative process, and that'll set you up for the long-term success.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And Joe Rogan talks about this all the time, talking about child stars and the fact that he's happy that he got famous when he's older in life, because it's building a foundation and having that foundation be what you root your confidence in. And you've mentioned confidence a couple of times, how you weren't confident at one point of your life, or you described yourself as less confident back in the day of fending for yourself and giving yourself the chance to putting yourself out there. And now you describe yourself as confident, and you seem like a very confident guy. So what happened with the transition there to go from not confident or less confident to more confident?
Yeah. That's a great question, bro. I constantly work on it. You know, I'm into self-improvement. I'm into the self-development books. I am into meditation. I'm into all the stuff, right? And I think once you realize that it's not about you, you're able to be more confident. So like, once you realize that like everyone has their own story, their own narrative, like everything is like for self-preservation for that person, like they're not really thinking about you, then you're able to get out of your own head. And also, yeah, and like in the process, doing it from a place of wanting to make an impact on other people. Like that's why I do it. So like, there was a long period there where there would be a comment on one of my YouTube videos that would just bring me down, and like I would delete the video. I don't want anyone to see it. Like that's how people think. Like, but like now, because I was too concerned with making everyone happy, but now I'm concerned with serving the people who care about this specific thing. There's tons of comments that people say on my TikTok now that like would have made me want to delete that video 5-6 years ago, but now it's like, great, it's not for you. And I'm happy that I made something that's clearly not for you, because there was 2 or 3 years there where there was no negative comments on my videos, and that is something you don't want, because then you're not getting your stuff out to enough people to even say, what is his opinion on this? Because when someone watches your thing, they need to know where you stand. Because if they don't know where you stand, they can't decide, am I with him or am I not with him? And that's how people come to their own critical thinking around an idea. Like they can say, I'm with him or I'm not. And if someone's not with me, then people probably are with me at the same time.
Could you share one of the comments that you would have deleted your video, just so we have some context?
Well, yeah. So the only one that I know off top is, so I created this clothing line called Honey John University. And the reason I created it is because when we went back to Westchester to perform, our college wouldn't let us go back there because they didn't like the song. And so I was like, I'm repping my hometown college. Like, I'm from Westchester. This song's about Westchester. My parents went to school at Westchester. Like, I grew up here. My dad played football here. My dad's team, he won the state championship. They just had like the 50-year anniversary, bro. Like, I am rooted in this town, right? Like, I love this town. And they said you couldn't perform here. So I was like, what? like, what are you talking about? Like, so I was just like, why would I promote this? If you look at the I Love College music video, I'm wearing a green sweatshirt. I have it somewhere here. Westchester University in that video. And I'm like, why am I wearing this? They're not even letting us show up here. And like, people would tell us, they would comment all the time, hey, we're only going to the school because we know that you guys went here. So I'm like, yo, like, I should get an affiliate link or something. I was like, I'm going to make my own college. Now, Will Smith is from Philadelphia. A big word in Philly is John. And at the time, there was like an early episode of Fresh Prince where he says, yo, we're going to go get some Honey Johns. And I like love that word. I love using it. I thought it had a great ring. So I had another clothing line at this time when like Westchester wouldn't let us go there. It was called See Me Apparel. And I would just put funny quotes on it. And I was like, all right, I just want to make a hoodie. So I made one hoodie and I started wearing it. It said Honey John University. And everyone was like, yo, we want that. I was like, all right, I'll make more. I threw it up on the site. Boom. It started blowing up. Like I got like, if you type in Justin Bieber, Honey John University, I got him wearing it multiple times, like at SNL in between Mike Myers, Dana Carvey and Mike Myers, yeah, and like he's literally like, it's epic photo. Like I got like a lot of like people rocking this, and it was doing really well, and so this thing is doing fantastic, right? It's blowing up. I'm better at creating the ideas, less at like running the business. So I could get it seen and like sales were coming in. And then one day I got a DM on that site that someone like 5 in a row, like homophobic slurs, like things like the person knew me, like from the way that he communicated it, and it like I was so connected to, like, I was so driven by the world's acceptance that like I started to see the way he saw it. This guy that like has for some reason some vendetta like over this thing that was doing well, and it like slowly like pulled the wind out of my sails for that brand. I was like, oh, maybe that's how everyone sees it. Oh, and like I just started like I honest to goodness like that was one of the comments, and then that like I honestly stopped pursuing that clothing line. Like that was one of the reasons. Not probably outright, but like that was a comment that like hit me in the side, and I was like, oh, like I don't want to have a clothing line that people think about it like that, and I stopped the clothing line.
Do you think that if you were running the clothing line today and got that comment,
oh my gosh,
would have stopped?
I would laugh. I would screenshot it.
So
what happened? Share it. That's a great question. What happened? Why am I more confident now? I can't pinpoint something, man, because it's a constant evolution. It's a constant evolution of being humbled, getting some wins, being humbled, getting some wins. And so now I think the main thing is that it's easy for me to say it's not for him, right? And highlight, this is what I do. This is actually, I'll tell you something that I do. Every single positive comment, I have a folder on my phone. I screenshot them. I plan on making like a whole wall in my house, the positive ones, because our brains are wired to remember the negative. Like that's the top of mind. Oh, something's wrong. I got to solve it. So like we forget the positive ones. So I have a whole folder. It's hundreds of comments, right? like if someone likes my video that is a big name, you are in that folder, and I appreciate you. And I look at them like when like I'm trying to feel like some momentum again for my content. I go through that just to feel that feedback loop, because when we're recording in our basement solo, it can get like it can get lonely, man. You can like be, what is this? Why? Like what even matters about like these little stupid videos I'm making? And then you look at those and it re-energizes you, and I lock in on the impact that I want to make for that person, and that is what gives me the confidence, because I realize it's not about me. It's about serving and providing impact on through the story that I'm trying to tell to the person that's receiving it.
My mom's laughing because she's listening to this right now, and she knows that I have printed out all the positive comments that have been said about this podcast over the past year or so. So
yep.
It's something that I do, and it's a great tactic. But were you doing that when Honey John was just beginning? Like, what was the step that made you realize, like, oh, this person's thoughts don't matter? Like, what were the things you did? How did you separate yourself from those thoughts?
I'll tell you something that I think about. I'm about to cry, bro. I have a photo over here of an image that my mom took, and like my mom is the best, right? Like, and she was a teacher for like 40 years. She comes over all the time. Like she's like, so in my world. And she has this photo, and it was this time in her life when she wanted to be a photographer. But she had 3 little kids, and she couldn't, I'm sorry, man. Oh, man. Like, this is honestly what I think about, though. You can keep this in. You might have to cut out the Scooter Braun stuff, but you can keep this in. So, she has this photo of the beach. She's in Ocean City, New Jersey. I got the shirt on right here. It's where my family vacations. And I think about the era that they grew up in, and they didn't have the resources that we have to be able to like start an Instagram account with our cell phone and have it blow up based off of our photography. Like, she had to get those developed. She had like so many barriers to entry to do it. And she had kids, and she had to put food on the table. With my dad, like they did it together. And but like, and my dad too. Like he's a handyman. Like he would be building furniture. But the thing that he had access to was like going to school, getting a job, being a teacher, being a coach, like doing all the things that like you couldn't just pick up a side creative hustle in 1970. It was hard to do that and to make money off of it. So honestly, I think about that. Like I literally have that picture in my basement for that reason. She's done a bunch of other creative things. Like she created these like when people would have babies, she would create these like cool illustrations for like their cribs and everything. Like she had all these little things. She still wants to write like a children's book, but like it was so hard to create that. So I think like for some reason that inspires me, because I'm like, if my parents had access the way that I have access right now, like to the resources to communicate and connect with an audience and share our creative insights and tell stories and connect with people and express ourselves, like they would do it, right? And I just feel like it would be selfish of me to not. And they afforded me the opportunity to have to be able to do it. And I just honestly, I just appreciate them, and I think about them, and it inspires me to want to create, because I know that like they had to make decisions to sacrifice for the family, but now it's accessible, and now like you can get a job based off of the podcast you start, like Danny Miranda, right? Then they couldn't. Like they had to go rent out a radio station. They had there were so many gatekeepers and barriers to entry just to get in this creative field, and that inspires me. Like just the fact that it exists and it's possible.
It's powerful. What was that? What inspired you initially to create bonus footage, to create these clips? Like what was the first impetus for I'm going to go in this direction?
So the thing that I've always been good at, and you can tell I sort of have I come from a family of coaches and teachers. All of my brothers and my dad, football coaches, basketball coaches, baseball coaches, like everything. Grew up in athletics. I've always, and I've always had this ability to, and friends have told me this, like from Asher to local artists that I work with, to my wife, to, like people are like, after I talk to you, I feel like it's possible.
Yeah.
And, there's so many experiences, and I don't do that because I want to. I do it because like I can't unsee potential. You know what I'm saying? Like I want, because I think honestly, and like I want to make sure like it's very clear. Oh crud!
It's all
Someone's
good.
Calling.
No worries.
Decline. I want to make sure it's very clear. Like when I met Asher, I didn't realize that I had this creative muscle, right? But I was able to live vicariously through him, and he encouraged me. He showed me how to write songs. Like he showed, he gave me an outlet to be creative, and I could hide behind him, and he could be the front man. And then I learned I had this creative muscle, and in that I found purpose and passion and excitement and curiosity. And then I stopped caring about partying. I stopped caring about the trivial things. So I think that there's a lot of people out there that are like curious, that want to get into it, but just might need a friend, might need someone to highlight it, to continue to bring it out. And then as you continue to grow, like the obstacles, get different. And like it's good to have a support group. Like, what are you going through with your podcast? And I just have always been that guy to see the potential and make it and communicate my belief in the potential if the person wants to hear that. Like I'm not going to give someone a whole rant if it's unwarranted, but if I feel like there's potential, I'm going to try to highlight it and make sure that person gives it, because that's your gift, and the world's better when you do give it. Oh, one more thing. I have a belief that there's a lot of people that have a creative gift that they can give. And I think when you are living from your strengths, from your natural gifts, you are happier. The people around you, it's a disservice to your family and friends if you're not like living from your natural gifts, because then you don't feel fulfilled in your day job. And then when I go upstairs, I'm burnt out, and like I'm not bringing the best energy to my wife and you know, my family. So I think it's important. So I'm like, the more people that I can get living from their like creative gifts, the better it will be for their families and better for the world. So like that excites me. That idea excites me. And people tell me that you know, something I said to them encouraged them to pursue the thing that they're doing right now. And my bonus footage and Creators Are Brands is just me scaling that, my one-on-one interactions with friends.
What do you say to somebody who believes they don't have a creative gift or a creative calling or a creative outlet?
That here's something. I believe that I don't actually think I'm creative. I just think I am. That's kind of contrary to what I said. I think real creativity comes from the courage to look silly, like, because so many people have it, but they haven't tried enough things to be able to uncover it. And I had the guts to try a lot of things. Like, I was rapping in music videos on stage. Like, what? But in the process, I learned that I was a good storyteller. I was good at directing music videos. I was good at like creating visual content, and like that's what companies started hiring me to do. But if I didn't experiment with like those little things, I wouldn't have found. If I wasn't willing to look silly in those other things, then I wouldn't have found like what it is that I'm doing now. So I'd say experiment. Find a little, like 30 days. Say, I'm going to try this sprint of this creative outlet, whether it's calligraphy or photography. Pick one thing and just push into it. And then after those 30 days, if you want to keep doing that, lean into it. If not, try something else and just treat it as like an 8th grade project, just an experiment where you can't win, you can't lose. It's just like you might get a C on it, you might get an A, but like whatever, you're the judge of it. No one else is grading it.
I love that. And on the same topic of you rapping in front of people, you got to tell the story of you and Pharrell.
Yeah. All right, I'll tell the Pharrell story. Yeah. So, one, it's epic, bro. It's so epic. Because like I think it's the only reason I tell it is because it was a pivotal moment. Like, I'm not even gonna front. Like, it was a awesome moment. So, we're in Miami, Florida, and like I think the other point is like look at me, guys. Like, I'm not supposed to be in the studio with Pharrell. like that's what makes the story the best. I'm clearly a fish out of water. But I'm in there. Asher's in there. Pharrell's 2 engineers are there. Pharrell. One, let's make it very clear that this whole 2 weeks, so Asher's label was paying for the session. I was there, and we would go in, and Pharrell was the first person I saw in music that treated his music like an absolute professional. He would clock in at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and then he would he'd look at us and say, he'd come in like with his wife and his kid. They'd watch reality shows in the other room, and he'd look at us and be like, "All right, what's the idea today, boys?" And we'd be like, "I don't know," and we just fumble around, and then he'd take what we're saying, and then he'd just start like making some sounds on his keyboard, making some sounds, and then he'd be like, all right, keep talking, spit me some ideas, and then he would just develop this like concept out of thin air. He would make the shell of the beat, and then at around 2 p.m. he would say, "All right, y'all stay here and y'all finish it." So he would leave us there with his engineers, and we'd have to finish the song. He'd clock in and clock out. All the other experiences were like, "Yo, we'll meet you at the studio at 2 a.m. in the morning." Like, there was drugs everywhere. There was like women. There was like all this nonsense. Pharrell, no drugs, no alcohol. Wife and kid, like just chilling. Like, he would come in SpongeBob socks, like just relax, man. Like, he was such a great example of what is possible. And I was like, I did write on Medium, and you'll have to link to it, an article called why Pharrell wants Flintstones vitamins. But it is this analogy he used. But in it, I talk about how his example of a rock star doesn't get highlighted enough. Like, you can be a rock star and be a good guy with a wife and a kid, and not do drugs, right? So oftentimes, in order to encourage some of the creativity on the songs, I would write my own lines to songs. And it was like Thursday of the first week. And, we did the whole thing, and, like, Asher had, like, every single day we made a song. So, like, it was Thursday of the first week, and there was this song called I'm Nice. And there was just the hook on it, and then Asher laid down his first verse, but I wrote a verse. I sat there, I wrote a verse, I wrote 16 bars, and I, like, had no desire to, like, I'm like, we're recording a 12-song album with Pharrell. It ended up never being released, but, like, I'm not going to make the cut on this song. Like, I'm on the mixtape tracks. Like, I'm not going to be on the Pharrell song. So, the engineer was like, yo, we need to fill the second verse. And, like, Asher was like, I don't got a verse. And the guy was like, his engineer was like, boy, what do you got there? And I was like, nothing. I don't have anything. And then he was like, nah. And then, like, my boy Jason Salvador was like, yo, go lay it down. And I was like, no, I'm not laying it down. So I went and laid it down. I did a one take of it. And I'm telling you, again, so I don't have, like, a musical prowess, but I do have good one-liners. And, like, that, like, I know that now. Because, like, I just know it. It's something there's a lot of things I'm not good at. Like, I'm good at writing one-liners, though. Like, this room is messy. I'm not good at staying organized. Like, whatever. So I bar up. I go in there. I one take it. Like, I come out in the studio. It's like they're like, oh, they're like all hyped up. So I'm like, they're just hyping me up. Like, they don't really mean that. So we go home. Chill that night. It's Miami, and then we come in the next morning. Pharrell comes in, and at this point, what he would do is he would play the song from the night before, and just to hear what we laid down. And so Asher's verse, like, goes first, and, like, Pharrell's sitting there. He's, like, bobbing his head. He's like, to the beat. And then, like, Asher's verse, and then the hook comes, and he's just bobbing his head. And then, like, he hears a new voice. He has no idea that, like, someone else is going to be on it. And at that point, I developed a good rapport with Pharrell. Like, we kind of clicked, like on a creative level. And I'm telling you, he starts double timing his head. He starts doing the whole like the stink face and everything. And then my verse is on now, and he's looking over at me. He's like, "Boy, is that you? Is that you?" And he's like bobbing back. The end of the verse, he comes up, he dashes me up, and he's like, "My mother effing man!" And then he looks at the engineer, and he goes, "Run that back." So he runs my verse back. I go in the other room. I'm shaking. I'm like, holy crap. Because Pharrell was like, I love Pharrell since, like, he made a song with Mace, Looking at Me, like, a long time ago. Why are you over there looking at me? Like, all his songs with Jay-Z, like, this guy's an absolute legend. And he just dapped me up and said, run it back, like someone that was a health and phys ed teacher 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So my boy's in the other room. He's like, I told you so. So it was like a really, really sweet moment. And then I'm going to, like, so one, it's funny because, like, I can share you the song, but no one else can hear it. But, like, obviously, because those songs never went out, they probably would have taken me off of it. But that was, like, a huge moment to just be, like, seen by someone. But, like, even the imposter syndrome in me says that's what Pharrell does. Like, he makes people, like, feel like they, he's able to see the best in people, right? And, like, bring out the confidence in them. So I'm like, he could have just been doing that to me, knowing that, like, he's not going to, like, well, how else is he going to respond? But that could be in my head. That's like the, that's at least what I felt at the time. A little bit of that, like, oh, he was just hyping me up. But the crazy part is, so couple months later, I'm telling my buddy about this. One of our buddies was, he was, like, on vacation then, that he usually traveled with us, and I was telling him about it. And he was just like, boy, like you really connected with Pharrell like that? I'm like, I promise you, like me and Pharrell, like we connected. And he was like, I don't know, man. Like, so we're in San Francisco at some like pop-up event, and we're opening up for Pharrell, and like we go on stage first, or Asher goes on stage first, and then we didn't see Pharrell like the whole time, and then he comes out like a couple hours later. I go in the stands with my buddy, and Pharrell's on stage. He's bopping up and down, and then and he sees me in the crowd, right? And he literally stops the music because they're a live band. He's like, wait. He's like, Boyd, get up here. yo, bro. He brings me and my boy up on stage, and like we're bouncing around, like we're doing the whole thing, like we're hyped, and then like I go side stage. We wait to him. They come out after the show. He comes up, daps me up again, huge hug. I look over at my boy that I've known since third grade, because he was traveling with us, and he was like he teared up. He teared up. He was like, yo, you weren't playing. You really cool with Pharrell like that. Yeah, dude, it was a really cool experience. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that story like even resonates or anyone cares with that. But like, these are the little anecdotes that fuel me, right? That fuel the content now. Like, I've seen these worlds. I've been in the corners. I've seen the rat-infested basements where smash hit records were recorded. I've peered into these different angles in these worlds of like, and the one thing that is so consistent is it's not the resources. Like, even the biggest stars that have everything are stuck up here, right? It's the mindset stuff, the intangibles that, you know, some of our favorite guys like Gary Vee talks about, like, that are so necessary in creating like long-term fulfillment as a creative, as an entrepreneur, as, you know, whatever career path you go. But like, yeah, this stuff is stuff I pull energy from and inspires me in the content that I make now.
How do you not go out there and then record a mixtape or record 12 songs or record whatever it is that's on your mind after getting that cosign from Pharrell?
Well, I did. I started a group called Ha Ha Yo. And it was basically a cross between Asher and like Lonely Island. And it was cool, man. Like we had like some fun followers, but like what I started to realize, and I learned a lot, and like honestly I talk a lot about it now, but I was reaching then. Like there was like one or two songs that like were like true to me, but the other songs, like we were trying to make pop songs. We were trying to do this, and I was really reaching for something that was like not true to me. And you can like even like hear it back, but people did enjoy it. Like it's honestly how I got a bunch of the opportunities, because I was writing and helping direct a lot of the, you know, the concepts, the music videos, and like that's why brands were coming to me and saying, hey, we want funny videos. So like in that I was like I was making skits with that brand, I was making, you know, funny songs, and I was doing all that stuff. And Pharrell did hear that music, and supposedly I'm gonna tell, like, I don't even know, because I don't know for sure. And people were like, yo, people are gonna be like, I've never heard the song, I've never heard the, you know, Tom might be joking, but like, listen, you can look at me, I'm not playing around. So randomly, an intern at one of the studios that he was at in a Beyonce session DMs me or texts me, whatever at the time, like contacts me and is like, yo, Pharrell is here. And she was a Ha Ha Yo fan. She was like, and like at the time, like I had a couple pictures out of him from the studio. She was like, would he remember you? And I was like, yo, go to his engineer. His name was Drew. It's Drew Coleman, still homies with him. Play the music for him. He played it. She played it for him. He grabs Pharrell out of the Beyonce session, and they're standing in the lobby watching all of my videos. And Drew was like, you got to understand, this is a Beyonce session, and he's sitting here watching all of your videos, and he was loving it. He was cracking up. And the reason I know this is true, actually, I'll tell you why I know this is true. Later that year, I'm at Made in America Festival. And I'm backstage because, you know, I got connections, but we were partying all day. I'm like shirtless. I'm like, you know, it's a festival, so I'm like just having a good time. Like from a distance, I see Pharrell get off stage. He gets in the car. It like pulls up, and they're like in traffic and they're leaving the parking lot. the window rolls down, and it's Pharrell, and he's like, Boyder, because my name was Boyder. I went by Boyder, like, for that brand. And he goes, and I go to him, I was like, yo, P, you crushed it. And he was like, yo, I heard all your tracks. I love them, man. Keep doing your thing. And he's like kind of soft-spoken. And I was like, yo, you too. Yo, it was such a sweet moment, man. I don't know, man. Is this stuff useful? It's funny. Like,
Yep.
I don't go into this stuff at all on my personal brand. Like, people would not even know these stories. Like,
I know. That's why it's amazing.
Yeah.
Why do you think you and Pharrell had such a bond or a connection like that?
He feeds off of energy. He is a master at, like, feeding off of the energy in the room. There was one time that we were making a song, and he was like, yo, we need like a woman's perspective on this. And he was like, there's too many dudes in this room. Like, let's invite some friends over. and just them being in the room. Like, he, like, reads the energy. How are people responding? What is their interaction? And, like, I'm an energy guy too. Like, if I'm in the room, I'm an extrovert. I feed off of energy too. If I have an idea, like, you know, I probably had, like, 10 times more ideas than I actually put out in that session. But I do remember by the second week, he was like, yo, Boyd, like, what's the idea of the day? And I'd be like, yo, this is what I got right now. And I think that, you know, we're both energy guys. And, you know, I think he just saw that I cared probably too. I just really cared about, like, what it is that we were doing, and I was stoked. Or he's just, you know, just a nice guy and likes everyone, and everyone feels that way. You know that feeling when, like a guy, like a hot girl, like, looks at him and they're like, oh, that girl wants me. Like, bro, she just looked at you. Like, Pharrell probably makes everyone feel this way.
I doubt it. It's a crazy story and crazy connection. At least it seems like to me. And
yeah.
I want to go back to something you talked about before, which is that you see the potential in everyone. And I'm curious, what exactly do you see in people that leads you to speak their truth that they don't even know exists within them?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is probably a rooted, like, I think I've always felt this way, but, like, listening to people like Gary Vee and Seth Godin and Stephen Pressfield, they've started to give me the words to articulate my feelings around it. But I believe that a lot of people's, like, potential gets schooled out of them, gets conventional wisdomed out of them. You know, like you must do this. This is the reference point you must live up to. If you don't fit in this, then you're not of value to this world, right? And you see that, like, oh, I'm not good at, like, someone, like, even in hindsight, someone like me and a lot of people shouldn't be sitting at a desk. Like all these rules for 6 hours, like, memorize this. Like, of course, if I play that game, I'm not going to be good at it, right? But then I start identifying, like, who I am with, like, oh, I'm not as smart as these other people because this is the game that we're playing. And then, like, you start to feel less curiosity, less excitement for new projects because you're just like, you're trying to fit into this world, and, like, you lose your confidence and you lose your ability to experiment and, like, you know, look outside the box. So I think that a lot of people have the potential, and, like, I see someone, Chase Jarvis talks about this, how, you know, in kindergarten, if you say, who wants to come right up on the board, everyone's hands go up. And then by senior year, no hands go up. They have the same creative ability, but now they're thinking about what the world's going to think of them from whatever they're writing on the board. And when I see it in someone, like, so for certain people, like, even my niece, she's 10, and she's a natural communicator, and she says, Uncle Tommy, I want to start, like, I saw your lights in your basement, like, I want to start making content. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, that girl shouldn't be, like not making content. Like, I want to help her make content. Like, that makes so much sense. Or, like, my wife, when I met her, she went to school for graphic design. And I just saw this talent. Like, she'd be at home. I have this lion piece that she made out of like newspaper and like charcoal and like all of these things, like this mixed media piece that she gave to me just for a gift randomly. And I'm like, how did you think of that out of thin air? Like, your mind made that? Like I remember, actually, one of the earliest moments of thinking about this, I remember driving through New York City, and that old building that
Flatiron.
It's like a what's that?
The Flatiron.
Yeah. I remember being like, that came from a person's mind.
Yeah.
Like someone's mind had to see that first. Like, that's how I think. Like, when I hear a song or like when I see a catchy commercial on TV, I'm like, someone was sitting on the toilet and thought of that idea. You know what I'm saying? And that inspires me, right? And I think that those people were able to somehow escape the school, like the having the schooling crush out that creative that creative impulse out of them. And I just think that when I see it in people, so when my wife started doing that, I was like, you know, she was getting told by her job, like, or by a school, like, oh, you need to go get a traditional graphic design job this way and a traditional thing this way. And I was like, no. Like, I would look at what she was doing. I'm like, do you know how many girls would buy that on Etsy? And she was like, yeah, let's try it. Like, and then she like started selling on Etsy, and then that leads to another thing and more relationships. And I don't know. I just think that like people, I don't know. I just like love the potential of an idea, and I think that a lot of people don't even let an idea happen because of like the way that they've been told the world is. But I've seen a song go from a rat-infested basement to being sang 3 times in a row in Cologne, Germany, by people that don't even know the language. And so I know how far ideas can spread if you just push and you put them out there and you throw pickles at the wall and see what sticks. Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I got to ask this question. You use this example so often of you were in this rat-infested basement, and now people are singing this song. But for 99.9% of creations, it doesn't reach that level of virality, that level of fame, that level of enjoyment by a broader audience.
Yes.
So
good point.
So how do you think about the 99.9% if you were to remove the 0.0001%?
How do I think about the 99% that doesn't, like the ideas that don't work?
Yeah.
Like the things that don't get seen, or all of the effort that doesn't get seen.
Exactly. And that's a big part of the process as well, too, right?
I'll tell you, okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not an expert. Bonus footage and Creators Are Brands is more journalistic than expert. It's more exploratory than I'm the professor. It's like, I'm going through this. I'm experiencing this. This is what I'm learning. I'm going to tell y'all so you don't mess up like me, right? Because like, I'm willing to look stupid for everybody so you can figure out exactly how you want to show up. So this is because, you know, even yesterday, I was that Will Smith video I put out. That video,
what does it got? 40,000 views in a day?
It got 40,000. Will Smith's team reached out to me, and I'm talking to them about it. But
wild.
I really wanted to one take that video, and I did. Like, so if you see it, like, there's no cuts. So I did it, and like I ran it back. Like, usually I can do it in like 3 to 4 tries. For some reason, it was longer. There was a lot of like things I wanted to touch upon, and just the off chance that his team might see it, I wanted it to be dialed in. And I was in the basement, and I did it for 15 minutes straight, and I couldn't one take it. And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to delete that, went for a walk, did it again. 15 minutes straight until I could one take it. I got it. I go and check the camera, and it's not recording.
No.
Then I do it again. My wife's knocking on the door saying, hey, can I come down and do the laundry? And I'm like, no, you can't come down and do the laundry, you know? But she's hearing me do it. She was like, you're doing that same thing. I'm like, I promise you I'm going to get it, you know what I'm saying? So, like, this is stuff It is hard. Like, it is hard. Like, and and I made a video about this. The hardest part isn't like the actual making of it. Like that was just an example, but it's like, you know, what your family and friend thinks about you when you're like going down this creative path, how it feels when it flops, like all of this stuff. And, you know, calling yourself an adult TikToker, like literally my like parent teacher day. Oh, what's your dad do? He's a TikToker. Like, isn't he a grown ass man? You know what I'm saying? Like that isn't like that's not sexy to say. You know what I'm saying? Like there's all these things that come with it. You know, people have this. They don't want to be called YouTuber. They want to be a filmmaker, but people see them as a YouTuber, and people think that sounds cheap. Like there's all these like things that go into putting your ideas out into the world. And for me, I think this is going to be kind of a lazy response, but the experience of what putting ideas out there has brought in return keeps me going. Brought in return as far as people's responses saying, this moved me, this made me want to do this made me want to publish. Thinking about the idea that like it helped them in some way. Knowing that I had to do the misses to get to that one. If I didn't get the context of the misses, I couldn't have gotten to that one. And there's another aspect that I wanted to touch upon with it, but I'm just kind of ranting my butt off. I feel comfortable with you, man. I'm just kind of going on a tangent with this stuff. What was I going to talk about? The ones that flop. It's not easy. Like sometimes I'm not stoked, but like again, if I put on it's an experiment. You interview James Altucher. Every little one is an experiment, and it's just feedback. It's feedback on how to improve it. And there's really no like once you take like you look at what the algorithms do. Like you could post the same video 3 weeks apart, different times, different events going on in the world, different. If people are running a lot of paid ads, like at that time, this season, in the fall, everyone's running paid ads, so you get less organic reach. Like, you could put all this time into this thing. That if you post that video in 3 months, it blows up, but for now, it doesn't. So, like, it's not an indicator of who you are as a creative. It's again, going back to the creative process. Building a library, seek to build a library instead of a one-off smash. And then once I started putting my energy and investing into that, then it became like more exciting to me, because then I'm like building this whole art piece that is like, little snippets at a time.
How do you feel knowing that it feels like everyone is trying to be a creator? And does that bother you, or does that excite you? Or both?
I think about this because I'm like, what if I think the beauty is there's a lot of different ways to show up as a creator, right? Like podcasting, long-form conversations is very different than like short-form TikTok content. And I think that like within that spectrum of things, I believe anyone could find their place if they tried. If they gave it like an experimental period of like, 1 to 3 years of figuring out what you want to do, I think someone can find their way of expressing their ideas. I keep bringing her up, but my wife, she does like art, and she doesn't like being on camera. It tenses her up. She doesn't want to communicate, but over the shoulder style communication, like it's a different form of communication. It's visual. And I was just telling her, I was like, your content is more digestible than mine, because there's no language barrier. Anyone can relate to the things that you're creating and sharing, and that's a beautiful thing. So like, I think you just have to find your form, and lean into it and pay attention to what excites you, what the world's responding to, and what's something that you would want to do 100 times. So if you notice how I'm doing my videos now, like I want to do vlogs, I want to do exciting like flashy videos. And I can. Like, I've done them. I do them for my job, right? But I want to create something that I can sustain. So if I have a video pops off that is like this flashy vlog where I'm like, doing crazy stuff, stunts like water, whatever, the types of vlogs I'm talking about. Like, say that video blows up, then that's the brand that people are going to want me to do. But I was like, I created a creative constraint, and it was sort of this approach stolen from Jack Butcher, who you ran into. But he talks about putting creative constraints on his art. And so he was like, make one decision that makes 1,000 decisions. So his decision was, I'm going to use Figma for all my designs. They're going to be minimalistic, and they're going to be black and white. That's it. And then that gives you a constraint to filter your ideas through. For me, I was like, all right, I need to be able to sit here, record and edit a video, and have it up in 30 to 40 minutes. Like, if it's any longer than that, then I'm putting that it's not something I can sustain and want to do long term. So I have to get creative within that constraint, and that's what I'm doing right now. Eventually, I want to, like Jack's doing now. He's going a lot of different avenues, but like right now, it's like sitting in that pocket and going all in on something that I can sustain for 100 videos.
I love that, man. And from talking to you for the past hour and a half and talking to you before, dude, you're really likable. You're a really likable guy, and I'm sure people get that feeling. Why do you think that is?
Thank you, man. Oh, man. Thank you. You're a likable dude, man. I am someone that gets energy from people. And I think I like people. I've always trusted the good in people. It's been something that, burnt me sometimes, but in the long run, I think that it pays off, right? I truly try to see the good in everyone, and I look for that. And, I even think like some of the people I talked about before that are big in the music industry, a lot of people as soon as someone becomes big, people try to pick them apart and bring them down. And I've had people burn me that are big, and I still see the good in them. I'm still no. I'm not, just because he has money now, I'm not going to try to find fault in him. There are so many great qualities about that individual, and everyone has their own story. And something I'll share with you too is, I've never said this on a podcast. You interviewed someone else. I have obsessive-compulsive disorder. And it's something that has been very challenging ever since I was in third grade. And so I know that even when I'm smiling, there's times where I'm feeling very distressed. So there's a whole nother story to the world that's going on. So I always keep that in mind, that if I'm at the cash register and this girl is put out, I'm not going to take that personally. She's at the cash register at 11:30 at a gas station on a Tuesday night. Of course she doesn't want to be there. And there's tons of other stuff that has led to why she's looking at me with a grimace right now. It's not I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to have there's probably I don't know. I just try to see the good in her and give people the benefit of the doubt.
So you have obsessive compulsive disorder, but you would never know that from talking to you. I would never know that. So how do you deal with that? How do you persist through the darker moments?
Yeah, man. So I've actually never said it to people on through content. And I more recently, I think I'm going to use my personal accounts to because I ended up getting therapy through a company called NoCD. And it was the most game-changing, talk about honestly, you could just wrap this whole interview up and you could say, get therapy. That was that and meeting my wife, the two most game-changing things for me when it comes to my my happiness, my output, in the world. So a lot of things were holding me back. So when I talked about that comment, OCD forces you harp on the little things, the things, and they become top of mind. You filter everything through that, and honestly, the content that I'm making now is part of my exposure therapy.
Wow,
it's kind of meta, but I put out the content, and it's build up my muscle to be able to to just face this, some of the obsessions square on, and put the stuff out. But yeah, it was very challenging. I was able to hide it really well until I moved in with my wife, and then I couldn't hide it, and she would see it. She would see it, and you get clever at it. You get clever at, because mine was all mental obsession. So I wouldn't do anything physical, so people wouldn't be able to tell. And so I was very, you get creative with, and I didn't know that I had it until I was 29.
Wow.
So bro, like, I had it for a minute, and I didn't know what it was. I just thought I was a little off. I just thought, like, I was like, man, like, why do I like focus on these things so much? But once I started to learn about it, I was like, it was so relieving to, like, I was like, oh, there's a thing, and there's something you can do, and no CD is by far the best way to go about it, because once I figured it out, I set up a bunch of appointments with therapists, but I canceled them because, like, it's like you have OCD about going to the OCD therapy, and but no CD is all virtual, so it's hard to like make an excuse or duck those meetings. And yeah, my therapist was an absolute gem and helped me out big time.
So what was that process like of your wife finding that out? Because I'm sure this was a real personal thing, or something that you weren't forthright. Yeah. What was that like? Well,
it almost broke us up.
Wow.
This is my there's a thing called ROCD. And so the themes of OCD can change. I'm not like an absolute expert, but like the themes can change. And like at the time, like that's what I started to have. And it goes for the things that you care about the most, which is the wildest part, because like it goes at the things you care about. So I cared about the relationship the most. And it started to show up, and it started affect us. And I just had to say, like, I had to tell her, like, hey, this is this is why our relationship sucks right now, and I'm gonna figure it out. And she was the first one where it was worth it. Like, I was losing more than I was gaining by like hiding it. So yeah, I went and got therapy, and then yeah, man, it's been game changing. It's something you got to keep up with too, but it's also what I don't know if this is a reframe, but people with obsessive-compulsive disorder are able to connect dots very quickly. So like they'll connect three things, and then like that's the thing that will trigger them. And because they're able to connect things so quickly, like that's how that triggers it even to reveal itself. So I'm like, oh, he knows. Like I'm not even good. The guy that you had on your podcast that said he had it before, he was better at explaining it. But I related to his story, and so you're able to connect things very quickly, but like that's what also makes you hypersensitive as like a creative, and like seeing ideas and seeing potential. So it's kind of something that's like, all right, once you able to, like some people in the books rein it is like, listen, this is your superpower. Like just don't let it abuse you. like learn how to rein it in and know what's happening when it's happening, so that you can kind of steer it in more productive ways.
And what did going to therapy help you with the most?
Just actually doing exposures. Yeah, like you have to do like these like he talked about it, where you put yourself in front of the, like this is how I relate to it. So imagine going on a hike, and there's a vampire. No, not a vampire. A cobra. Not a vampire. Who sees vampires on a hike? There's a cobra on the hike, right? There's a cobra that pops up on the trail. And you can't run, and you can't duck, but you just have to stay there. And you have to keep experiencing that. And it moves closer and it backs away. And it moves closer, it backs away. That's what it feels like when you're caught in like an obsession and compulsion like moment, right? Where you just feel this slight trigger of like cortisol like all day. Wow. And like you can't have clear thoughts. And every time you try to like do one of your compulsions to like go onto another trail, it feels good for a split second, but then the cobra gets bigger. and then it gets bigger. So then it keeps compounding, and then what happens is, this is what I realized happened to me, is like you don't realize that you're doing these compulsions to try to fix the obsessions, and then over time you're you're such a slave to doing these that you rely on them, and they stop working. You're just always like in this kind of obsessive compulsive reaction to anything that is remotely a trigger. So what they teach you to do is stare that cobra in the eye, and bring those moments to you. And a lot of it, like I talked to you about, even with social media, putting out content, like how people will react. Like there was definitely OCD around that, and I've been able to, I use that as a tool to stare it in the eye and just keep publishing.
And so what was the impetus for putting content out? Like, what was the conversation like when your therapist said you should start putting content out? Or did you have that call? Like, what was that like?
Yeah. Okay. So this is like an OCD moment that I had. I remember I was like, what if I inspire someone to do something that they shouldn't do, and then they become a YouTuber, and 10 years down the line, they are mad at me, and then I am responsible for the 10 years that went wrong for, you know what I'm saying? Like, wow. It makes no sense. It makes no logical sense, right? But that's the thing, like, it's not logical, but it's like a feeling. Like, I feel that, like I feel the stress response of saying that. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to inspire someone to do that, because then like they'll be mad at me. Then it's my fault that person's life is ruined and his wife's mad at, you know what I'm saying? Like all these things connect the dots on. And again, I'm not an expert on this. This is like my kind of experience of this, kind of sharing it. But then it was like, okay, like, if that is a thing, you got to go right at it. So you have to make more content inspiring people to be YouTubers.
And
yeah.
What were we gonna say?
I don't know. But it's like, it hasn't been that at the beginning. For my YouTube channel last year, that's where it was at. Like, as I got over that, like, that hasn't been an issue. It's been like I've kind of like, this is something I want to do. Like I said, it attacks the things, it goes at the things that you want to do the most. So I want to be on camera. I want to be a storyteller. I want to be connecting with people. So that's why, like, it like shows up for the things that you really care about. And I just really care about it. And like, so once I was able to like kind of look at that cobra in the eyes, like it hasn't been that, like, that's not the impetus anymore to create content.
And you are inspiring the world and doing an incredible job doing what you knew you should be doing and what you maybe were scared of at one point. And I'm incredibly grateful that you were able to look down that cobra and extend to a new person, new version of yourself. It makes me so warm and makes me feel so good. So thank you. And is there anything else you'd like to add to put a bow tie in this conversation?
Yeah. So my question is, we hit so many things. I feel bad that you're going to have to edit this. I hope you don't have to edit it much. But no, man, you're a great podcaster. Your story is what inspires me. I feel like my story too. Like, I believe that, like, we're both people that saw like a little impetus of like an idea of like something, and we just kept, what's over here, and we kind of kept experimenting and kept going. That, like, it takes a lot of guts to do that, to look silly the first 10, 15, 20 episodes. And like, that's really where I want to show up. Like, that's the thing that's important to me. And then, like, how do you sustain it? How do you make a living out of it? Like, how do you put food? How do you buy your kids shoes with your ideas? You know, like, that's exciting to me too. Like, once you get the idea, because I saw people have the ideas get big, but then not understand the business. So not only the beginning part, those first 10 to 15, 20 videos, but also, how do you sustain this? How do you make this real and exciting and fulfilling, and have great relationships and friends like I met with Danny here along the way? So I'm glad. I'm stoked that I am on your show. Thank you for letting me rant. You have a lot of big guests. I had some imposter syndrome about even coming on this. I'm like, man, why do people even care about me? But thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch on that quick point about the first 15, 20 episodes and the first 15 to 20 pieces of content someone puts out.
Please.
Because I think it's a lot easier when you're speaking your truth, when you already know yourself and you're whole yourself. And you might not ever feel whole or 100%, but if you're coming from a place of truth and I've done work on myself and I need to get this information out to more people, I had known that I had made a massive change in my life. So I felt an obligation to share and do those crappy episodes and put out that crappy content, quote unquote, because some of that content still gets loved to this day. So clearly wasn't that crappy. But the point was that I knew I'd made a change in myself and I knew I had a truth I need to share. So because of that, I felt confident to keep going. And so if you feel some level of imposter syndrome or some level of, should I be putting this out? For me, that happened when I didn't have anything truly to share. And for you, it might be you have something truly to share. But for me, it was like I knew it was obvious for me to keep going because I was speaking my truth.
Danny, thank you for sharing that. That is something, too, that I want to say, because you asked that, how did you become more confident? I think it was because I uncovered that. I uncovered that the things that I was doing before were not my truth. They were things that I was doing to try to get attention. So I could never be fully congruent or aligned with the mission and then end up being confident enough to see them through. But then once I was like, wait, this is how I can show up. And this is true to me. Like the content that I'm creating now is like, even if it's like technically not the best storytelling, the best this, like I know it's like I really care about it and I believe it, and that's enough for me. It's
your truth. And like I said, the world's better off for you sharing your truth. Thank you, Tom Boyd.
Thank you, Danny.
Where can we find you for more and to connect after this incredible conversation?
Hit me at bonus footage on Instagram or bonus footage on TikTok, or Creators Are Brands is my website. In the future, I'm going to be doing some workshops, some teaching that are going to help creators create short-form content, thrive on camera, and edit their videos, so look out for those. But, yeah, on the internets, I love you. Danny, this is an amazing conversation. Thanks for letting me jam out and laugh and cry during this conversation.
It was incredible. It was an incredible one. So thank you for being here.
Of course.